welcome back, everyone, to Season 3, Episode 14 of the Inside the Woods podcast, a Valley News show where every week we've been giving you an inside look at Dartmouth Big Green Athletics, and I'm your host, Mike Coughlin. On this week's show, we're going to check in with the indoor track and field and skiing programs. First, I spoke with Dartmouth's Director of Track and Field and Cross Country, Mike Nelson. The men's and women's squads competed last week at the HBCU and Ivy Challenge in Cambridge, Mass. And some of the men also competed in the Sharon Collier Danville season opener in Boston. The men finished second at the HBCU and Ivy Challenge, while the women finished fifth. Moving forward, the college hosts the Dartmouth December Invitational on Friday and Saturday. In addition to Mike, I talked to the Director of Skiing and the women's Nordic head coach, Cami Thompson. The Big Green skiers are hard at work for the season, which is right around the corner, and I had the opportunity to pick Cami's brain about the ski program and how she thinks her squad will fare this season. Dartmouth's ski program is coming off a third-place finish at the NCAA Championships last season. Now, with introductions out of the way, let's get to the rest of the show. Now joining me on the show is Big Green Director of Track and Field and Cross Country, Mike Nelson. Mike joined Dartmouth in August of 2024. Hey, Mike, thanks for joining the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
So, last week the men's and women's indoor teams opened up the season with the HBCU and Ivy Challenge down in Cambridge, and you also had some competitors in the Sharon Collier Danville season opener in Boston. What were some of your biggest takeaways from the meets?
Yeah, it's always interesting. I think there's different philosophies when it comes to December indoor meets for different teams. Some teams are kind of going all out. Some teams don't even do December meets, and then some are kind of somewhere in the middle, giving some athletes opportunities. They've been training hard all fall, giving them one or two opportunities to just get out and put the competition shoes on for a meet or two. I'd say we're probably in that middle ground where these meets, definitely not the most high intensity or high pressure meets for us, just kind of an opportunity to get out and compete and have some fun. We're in a what we call a winterim period where we're actually not in class right now. Our class, we had finals before Thanksgiving. Some of the athletes went home for Thanksgiving, then came back for 2 weeks. And then some stayed around, and we've got about 50 to 60% of the team back for this 2-week winterim period, training really well. We really see this as because we're not in school right now, so we really see this as a time to kind of bond as a team. Almost every day there's some sort of team activity. We happen to have some meets, and they're fun and important, but really the heart of the season. The big ones are, later in January and February.
Right. And could you tell our audience about, some of the athletes you're projecting to be some of your strongest performers as the season progresses?
Sure, yeah. I would say on the women's side, you've got Jada Jones. Jada was the Ivy League champion indoors and outdoors in the 200. Indoors, she broke Gabby Thomas's conference record. So that was very impressive, obviously. So Jada's definitely one to watch in the 200 and the 400. Also, let's see, on the women's side, you have Andy Murray in the 800. She made the NCAA Outdoor Regional in the 800. Also, you have Charlotte DeRocco in the high jump, great high jumper for us. On the men's side, Jack Intihar was, I believe, second indoors and outdoors in the heptathlon and the decathlon. So he's one of our great athletes. Also, Liam Murray in the 400. He ran 46.5, I think, in the 400 last year. So great 400-meter runner returning for us. Giovanni Blake in the 800. He ran 147 for us in the 800 last year. David Adams is another one in the pole vault. He was at the first Harvard meet last week. He was attempting a bar above the school record, which is his school record. So that was really fun to watch. So I'm sure I'm leaving out some. Two more on the men's side would be Max Klein, shot putter, also made the NCAA regional last year, and Colton McMaster at Harvard. He won the shot put and the weight throw. So again, I'm probably missing a few. We've got about 85 student athletes on the team, but some really good student athletes coming back for us for this 26 indoor and outdoor season.
Right, and last season the men finished fourth as a team and the women sixth at the Ivy League Indoor Championships. What are some of the things you focus on as a program to try and improve those team results this season?
Yeah, we're just 100% process oriented. So until you just told me, I honestly couldn't even remember what we placed last year. It's all just focusing on the athletes and trying to get them to be at their best when it matters the most. And then we'll kind of see how the points shake out. We're just trying to get them to, set new personal bests, train at a higher level. We have, always a handful of athletes that might have been injured last year. So if we, get them to show up healthy, that makes us a stronger team. There's all kinds of areas where I think we can score more points, but then, we also lost some heavy hitters from last year. So, it's just process oriented. I don't think we've, as a staff, ever once talked about what place we're going to try to get. It's just, let's obviously try to score more points, but really it's just kind of focusing on each individual and, okay, what did Jack Intihar score in the decathlon last year? Oh, he scored this amount of points. Well, we think in this event, he can improve, which might elevate him to, a much higher score. And then whatever place he gets, and it's kind of like that with, just about everybody on the team. So it's just really looking at each individual, where they can help us, very strategically putting people in events where they can help us the most. And, then seeing kind of how the points shake out.
Right. And starting on Friday, Dartmouth will be hosting the Dartmouth December Invitational. Could you give our audience an idea of what goes into hosting a meet like this, and also your thoughts on how the men and women, will fare this weekend?
Sure. This is a very small, low-key meet. It's a great opportunity, for us. I would equate this to a preseason game. If this were basketball or football or something like that, this is kind of like a preseason game for us, which is not to say that we're not, going to go all out or anything. We definitely have entered most of our athletes, but, it's an opportunity to host a competition before we won't see the athletes for about 3 weeks. And it's an opportunity for us to have some great practices this week and then go into the competition and see where we're at in some different events. There's about 5 teams. Like I said, very, very low key meet for us. And it's always fun to compete at home because, it's maybe a little bit easier for some friends to see you compete. So should be kind of fun.
Right, and then finally, I mentioned it in your introduction, you were brought into your current role in August of last year. Since you've started, how have you enjoyed this role and your time at Dartmouth?
Yeah, overall, it's been awesome. I couldn't be happier. Dartmouth has such a strong tradition in track and cross country. And, for me, I just look forward to continuing that legacy of excellence that Dartmouth has established with, several coaches who have coached here over the last 150 years. The history is very extensive. So it's been really fun to, learn all the history of the program. I like to consider myself somewhat of a historian of track and, learning all the history of Dartmouth. It's quite extensive. So that's been a lot of fun. But no, I've really enjoyed Hanover, and I live in Lebanon. So, my family is settled in really well. I have 3 children, and they're all playing sports for the Lebanon middle school and elementary school. And yeah, I've really enjoyed our time so far in the Upper Valley and look forward to many years to come. But Dartmouth's been great. And, the track and field history is very rich, and we're just looking forward to adding more onto that history.
Well, thanks again very much for joining the show, Mike. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. And thanks for having me on.
Before we get to our final interview of this week's show, let's take a quick look around Big Green Athletics for a winter sports update. The story of the season so far has been the men's hockey team, who has won its first 10 games and is unbeaten. The Big Green are currently ranked 8th in the nation and most recently picked up a 6-1 win over Yale on Saturday. The squad's next game is on Friday when it hosts Army. The women's basketball team has also held its own this season and is currently on a 2-game winning streak after victories over Central Connecticut State and Bucknell this past weekend. The Big Green are 5-2 and look for win number 6 at NJIT on Thursday. Elsewhere in winter sports, Dartmouth is having success. Women's swimming and diving won the Golden Grizzly Classic last weekend, and the men finished in second. Both the men's and women's squash teams are over 500 at 3-2 after picking up wins over Bowdoin and Colby on the road. And as I mentioned in the introduction, the indoor track and field teams had solid performances last weekend. However, not everything is peachy for Dartmouth athletics, as the women's hockey team has had a tough start to the season and sits at 2-10-2 overall. But there is a silver lining. The Big Green snapped its 6-game losing streak when it played Union to a scoreless tie on Saturday. They will look to pick up a win when St. Michael's comes to town on Friday. Additionally, men's basketball is under 500 at 3-5 and have lost 2 straight on the road against Wyoming and Colorado State. The Big Green will search for a win when BU comes to Hanover on Saturday. Now that we've given you a bit about Dartmouth's winter sports, let's get to our interview with Cami. Now with me on the show is Dartmouth's Director of Skiing and the Women's Nordic head coach, Cami Thompson. Cami first joined the Big Green in 1989. Hi, Cami. Thanks for coming on the show.
Hi, Mike. Thanks for having me.
As your team gets ready for the season, could you tell our audience about how preparations have been going and about some of the athletes you're expecting to perform well this year?
Sure. So just to clarify, we talked about the whole team, Nordic team, women, men?
Yeah, you can
the
take it
thing about skiing.
Right. Yeah, you can really take it, wherever you want to go. We're, looking to, hit on all of skiing. So it's really up to you.
Great. Okay. Well, we had a super dryland period during fall term in Hanover. And since we finished our final exams a week or two ago, the Alpine teams have been in Sweden training. And I think they've had some really good preparation there. And they will start racing, I think, this coming weekend. And the Nordic teams are out in British Columbia in Silver Star. And we've had 2.5 weeks of great training so far. Snow is a bit of a premium this fall. So it started off a little bit slow, but we've been getting more snow every day and are in the skiing mecca out here. We'll start racing this coming Sunday.
Okay. And, the ski program as a whole has, had a lot of success lately, finishing third last season at the NCAAs and fourth the season before that, along with several strong individual performances. What do you think has been the key to having this type of success as a program?
Well, certainly, we need to perform and have some good athletes in all 4 disciplines. So men's alpine, women's alpine, men's Nordic and women's Nordic, and that has contributed to our success. I think we've been solid and had all-American finishes in all 4 disciplines. So that's probably the biggest thing. But we also, we've got a great team dynamic going right now where the team supports each other, pushes each other, and works really hard. And that helps bring up, the sort of the second tier level of the team.
Right. And, keeping with the ski program as a whole, having been with the college for an extended period of time, how would you say the ski program has evolved since, maybe you first started?
Sure. Well, I think we are able to provide more support to our athletes, everything from nutrition and sports psych to recovery and mobility, and all of those things have helped our teams, be more professional and stay healthier. We, have continued, and one of the things we're proud of as a program is that we've had athletes from our program on every modern Winter Olympic Games. So we're really striving to bring in those athletes who can achieve at that level, and that helps bring up the whole level of the program.
Right, and I mentioned it in your introduction. You're not only the women's Nordic coach, but also the director of skiing at the college. Could you give our audience some insight into what that role involves?
Oh, I think it basically just makes me sort of the head shepherd of the whole program. Each of us is the head coach within our discipline, And we just helpful to have one person as the point person, and that has been me most recently.
Right. And, finally, as the season approaches, what are you most excited about and what are you most looking forward to with the squad that you have with, women's Nordic?
Sure. Well, we did lose 5 of our 12 athletes last year, so that feels like a bit of a hit, but the team has gelled tremendously this fall and is working really hard. So I'm confident that even though we lost a little bit of our heat, we can really make a difference once we start the race season. This is a hard time of year. We've put in the time and the effort, and people are motivated, but we don't know how it's going to play out yet until we start racing. So we're really excited to sort of kick things into gear and see what we can do.
All right. Well, thanks so much for joining the show, Cami. I really appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me, Mike.
And that was Season 3, Episode 14 of the Inside the Woods podcast. As always, thanks for listening. We'll be back again next week to talk more Dartmouth athletics, so stay tuned. Till next time, enjoy the rest of your week.